The New York Islanders beat the Rangers on Tuesday night 4-2, but the Rangers are still complaining about 2 checks. Were these dirty checks or just BS? We'll have that and a whole lot more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast.
You're Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to thank everyone who makes Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts so you can get new episodes as soon as they drop. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Terms and conditions apply. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on a future episode, send us an email to lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we discuss whatever's on your mind. You could also follow the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on X at Ice Wars, NYR-VSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all things Islanders all season long, and I am live tweeting during nearly every Islanders home and road game. So join me for some instant insight and analysis, and it's great to talk Islanders hockey with you, game time or anytime. Still a lot of fallout from the Islanders' 4-2 win over the Rangers on Tuesday night. And it's interesting, this rivalry to me is sort of the best rivalry in hockey, and certainly the best rivalry in the New York metropolitan area. I mean, the Mets and Yankees, they're in different leagues. They play each other, 4 or 5 times a year, but unless it's in the World Series, there's not quite as much at stake. Knicks and Nets, yeah, okay, but that rivalry, there haven't been a lot of playoff series or extremely meaningful games between those two teams. This is the biggest rivalry. Jets-Giants play every 4 years. So, to me, it's all about Rangers and Islanders and Islanders and Rangers. And, Tuesday night's game was just another chapter in that great rivalry that dates all the way back to the birth of the Islanders in 1972. And really through till 1975 when they first met in the playoffs and the rivalry just went up a huge notch. And in that game, after the game, New York Rangers coach Peter Laviollette was very upset about 2 different plays. And, this first one, I think he has very little of a point. And then the second one, we'll talk about that a little bit later on. The first one was when there was a collision midway through the third period between Mika Zibanejad and Adam Pelech. And Zibanejad did have to come off the ice. So, that was definitely concerning. You don't want to see anybody on either team get injured. And, you look at that play. It was Adam Pelech and Mika Zibanejad. And, Laviollette basically said about Pelech, he came back from the end. Here's what he said about Zibanejad. He came back from the end, from the vicious hit. He came back. That vicious shoulder/elbow to the head. Watch it. But then you watch the replay. And it happens right at center ice inside the Islanders logo, just near the red line. And both Zibanejad and Pelech are watching the puck, which was, down at one end of the ice. Neither one of them were looking at each other. And Zibanejad just basically ends up crashing into Pelech. And Patrick Waugh basically said, I was more afraid that Pelech may get hurt on that one. He's the one, Zibanejad, that hit Pelech. I mean, it was the opposite. I think that's what happened. It was totally accidental. There was no doubt in my mind. Kelly Sutherland was in a really good position to see everything, and he made it clear right away that it was accidental. But sometimes frustration makes you say things. And I think Waugh is right about that. And before we get into all kinds of, Peter Laviolette's being a crybaby, think about it from the perspective of what a coach's job is. The head coach of an NHL team's job is to motivate his players to play their best hockey and to put them in a position to win, whether it's by picking the right players in the lineup, the right line combinations, when to call a timeout. A lot of different things go into the success or failure of a team that the coach has a certain amount of control over. And if I'm Peter Laviollette, I'm disappointed that my team lost to its bitter rival. I'm not happy that one of my star players was shaken up. And so in order to defend my team and to motivate my team, I'm going to go out there and say, yeah, I think that was a dirty hit. And I think it will only intensify the Rangers' efforts on Saturday when these two teams meet again. Now, the second incident happened in like the last 15 seconds or so of the hockey game. And this one involved Vincent Trocheck and Noah Dobson. And the puck was behind the goal, or at least behind the goal line. And on that play, I think Noah Dobson realistically could have been called for boarding. In fact, if I were the referee, I probably would have called that play. A few seconds later, Anders Lee ends up putting the puck into the open net. Trocheck was thankfully okay, although Laviollette called the hit vicious, quote unquote. Well, okay. I think he has a much better argument on the Dobson play than he does on the Pelech Zibanejad play. And yeah, like I said, I would have called a penalty against Noah Dobson. Would it have changed the outcome? Probably not, considering how little time was left in the game. Maybe the Rangers get one more chance off the draw after that, and with the pulled goalie at 6-on-4, but there would have been about 15 seconds left. So could it have changed the outcome? Perhaps. But here's the thing. Like I said, I think Peter Laviollette is trying to motivate his team. And I think there is very little doubt that by calling out these hits, we may very well see a version of Slapshot or old-time hockey on Saturday afternoon at Madison Square Garden. This really could turn into a Federal League, so to speak, showdown, because anyone want to bet whether or not Matt Rempe will be in the lineup for the New York Rangers on Saturday? I'm willing to bet he is. Anybody else want to bet that at some point during this game, both Adam Pelech and Noah Dobson will be challenged and probably have to drop the gloves in order to defend themselves and their honor in this game? And would it surprise anybody if it happens like it did a week or so ago in a game between the Devils and the Rangers, right after the opening faceoff? I almost wish that they'll just do it right away and get it over with. Could we see a line brawl like they had in that New York Rangers game? Yeah, we could. And I just don't want to see a guy like Noah Dobson or a guy like Adam Pelech or anybody, for that matter, on either team get injured in this case. So trying to break it down objectively, the the first hit, Pelech on Zibanejad, I don't even think it was a hit. It was a collision. Neither player was looking where they were going. They were both watching the puck, which was heading down the ice. I think it was more of an accidental hit than it was anything else. The second play by Dobson on Trocheck, I think should have been a penalty, was not called. I think that they have a more of a gripe on that case. But either way, I think we're going to see some very physical, very inspired hockey. And whether you think Peter Laviollette has any merit on either hit, I think he's doing his job, because what he's trying to do is to motivate his team to get those 2 points that they'll need in the standings on Saturday, that they may need to clinch first place in the East or first place in the Metropolitan Division. And also, let's face it, the Islanders could be the Rangers' first round opponent. So getting that bad blood boiling between these two teams, if I'm coaching either team, certainly that could happen by calling out hits like that. And the fights that I'm anticipating will take place on Saturday, that could inspire a lot more as well. So a lot going on with that. And we have to keep our eye on it and hope that the game does not get out of hand on Saturday and that nobody else is injured. But rest assured, this incident isn't over. And I think we will definitely see another chapter in the many chapters of this rivalry that we have seen over the years. And Saturday's game may add a sort of a little extra chapter to some of the crazy things we've seen between the New York Islanders and the New York Rangers. We have got more to get to on this show. I wanted to talk a little bit about what Cal Clutterbuck did during that game on Tuesday night. We'll talk about that. We'll also preview tonight's game against the Montreal Canadiens. Big game coming up here. It is a 7:30 Eastern time start. And don't forget, you could hear every minute of that game on SiriusXM. Just go to the SXM app and do a search for Islanders. So check that out. And of course, we'll also have our Islanders birthday of the day, a Swedish defenseman who played a huge role on the team in the 80s. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Factor. Eat stress-free this spring with Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals. Every fresh, never-frozen meal is chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. Choose from a weekly menu of 35 options, including popular options like Calorie Smart, Keto, Protein Plus, or Vegan and Veggie. Also, discover more than 60 add-ons every week, like breakfast, on-the-go lunch, snacks, and beverages to help you stay fueled and feel good all day long. What are you waiting for? Get started today and fuel up for your springtime goals. I mean, if you're looking for gourmet meals, try meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, truffle butter, broccolini, and asparagus. And these meals are tailored to your schedule. You can customize your weekly meals with the flexibility to get as much or as little as you need. You can pause or reschedule deliveries to fit your lifestyle. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 and use code LockedOnNHL50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next box. That's code LockedOnNHL50 at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 to get 50% off your first box and 20% off your next box while your subscription is active. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Well, make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, and we're streaming 24/7 on YouTube or on the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I wanted to talk a little bit about something I didn't get a chance to talk about on yesterday's show, and everydayers. I had one person mention it to me in a comment and on YouTube, and I think it was definitely worth mentioning. It was just a time crunch, realistically, and that is the thing that Cal Clutterbuck did during this game when the Islanders were struggling, and we know they were struggling in the second and third periods of this game. At one point, Cal Clutterbuck called the team aside without the coaches and just gave them a pep talk. And to me, it just showed remarkable leadership on Cal Clutterbuck's part to address this situation where, the team was reeling a little bit. They were being outplayed. They were being out hustled. They were not staying out of the penalty box. They weren't having an easy time clearing their zone. And when you think about it, that move, that speech by Cal Clutterbuck is the very definition of leadership by a veteran player. And look, Clutter is not a spring chicken anymore. He obviously is 36 years old. This may be his last season in the NHL. We don't know, but it may be. And he went out there, and you could see how all of his teammates were focused on everything that Cal Clutterbuck had to say. And I really give him credit. That's why he wears, an A on his sweater or his jersey for the New York Islanders. And you could say what you want about Cal Clutterbuck, whether or not you think he's slowing down and whether or not it's time for the Islanders to move on from him after this season. But what he did Tuesday night against the Rangers and the way he addressed the team was absolutely one of those things that doesn't show up directly in a box score, but absolutely is vital to the team's success. So kudos to Cal Clutterbuck for the way he handled that situation and for the fact that he helped the New York Islanders stay steady and hold on to that win over the New York Rangers. And again, to me, that was just absolutely great. Now, Wednesday night, there are no games on the schedule that had any effect on the playoff race. But right now, tonight, Thursday night, boy, the schedule is chock full of games that are going to be absolutely vital and will have a huge effect on the New York Islanders and their hopes to make the playoffs. And it's not going to be an easy situation for the Islanders because a lot of these teams are going to be playing, each other. So you look at the games on the schedule. Obviously, you have the Washington Capitals in Buffalo to face the Sabres. Islanders have to root for the Sabres. Capitals are 2 points behind the Islanders. They're all even in games played. So it really just becomes a situation where Buffalo, the home team, and they're more or less out of the playoff picture right now. The Islanders need them to win. Philadelphia visiting the Rangers, Flyers falling fast. One more loss by the Flyers. They won't be able to catch the Islanders. The other game that is huge, though, for the New York Islanders, Detroit in Pittsburgh. And again, this is one of those reasons why I hate the loser point in the NHL. The most important thing for the Islanders in a game between Detroit and Pittsburgh is that this game should not go to overtime or a shootout, because then both teams will get points. The Islanders are 3 points ahead of both Pittsburgh and Detroit with 4 games to go. If the Islanders win, they will really be far ahead of whichever team loses, and it'll almost be impossible for that team, if they lose in regulation, to catch the Islanders, because realistically there will be 3 games left, and the Islanders, if they win, would be 5 points ahead. So lot of scoreboard watching to do tonight. Red Wings, Penguins, Capitals, Sabres, Flyers, Rangers, and then, of course, you have the Islanders and the Canadiens. So we will discuss that. We will have a full preview of that game, plus our Islanders' birthday of the day. All that and more coming up on today's Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. When you're drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could handpick the best stars for your business team? If you're building your talented roster, you need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Don't spend hours on multiple job sites looking for candidates with the right skills when you can do it all with Indeed. Hate waiting. Indeed's U.S. data shows over 80% of Indeed employers find quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the minute they post and sponsor a job. So join over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows when you're growing your own business, you have to make every dollar count. That's why with Indeed, you only pay for quality applications that match your must-have job requirements. Visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon, Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. And now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. So tonight, Islanders, Canadiens, 7:30 Eastern time start. And don't forget, you can hear every minute of this game with the Islanders' hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just go to the SXM app and do a search for Islanders. Look, there's 4 games left, including this one. So they're all big games, and there is no letdown until the Islanders have at least clinched a playoff spot. And this game, when you look at it on paper, is probably a classic trap game. The Canadiens, while they did win their last game convincingly over the Flyers 9-3, they are in last place right now, tied with Ottawa for 8th or 7th in the Atlantic Division. They have 72 points in 78 games. They really were a pleasant surprise early in the season, but they have since slowed down a little bit and seem to be, struggling a little bit more based on recent play. There is some real talent on this team, but they are 27th in the league in goals scored, 26th in goals against. Special teams right around there. Power play, 26, 17.5% success rate. Penalty kill, 25th, 76.7% success rate. The big key for the New York Islanders is to make sure they do not take this team lightly. The Islanders historically have letdowns after playing the Rangers. And not only did they just play the Rangers on Tuesday, but they're playing them again on Saturday afternoon. So it will be important for the Islanders to be ready to play and to control this game from the opening faceoff. They got to play well, and they can't let Montreal get off to a good start and then, gain that confidence that they can win the game. Sam Montembeault is the starting goalie, has a 3.10 goals against, a 16-15-7 record, and a 9.04 save percentage. So, Montembeault, he was the goalie against the Flyers in their last game. Their most dangerous players, Nick Suzuki, 33 goals, 75 points. Mike Matheson has 49 assists and 59 points. And Cole Caulfield, has 60 points and 24 of those goals. Those two, by the way, Suzuki and Caulfield, as of now, are the only two players over the 20-goal mark for the Habs. The line combinations, Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, and Yuri Slafkovsky, they're the top line. Alex Newhook, Brendan Gallagher, and Joel Armia are the second line. Third line from left to right, Tanner Pearson, Jake Evans, and Josh Anderson. And then Christian Dvorak is the fourth line pivot. Michael Pezzetta to his left, Raphael Harvey-Pinard to his right. On the blue line, Mike Matheson and David Savard, a solid top pair. Jordan Harris and Jonathan Kovacek are the second pair, and then Jaden Strumble and Justin Barron are the third pair. The netminders, Montembeault and Caden Primo. We'll see which one of them gets the start against the Islanders. If they're rotating, Primo would be the next up. On IR right now, Kirby Doc, Joshua Roy is out. Caden Goulet is out. We'll see if either of them are able to return to the lineup. But it's a big game for the Islanders, and it's a big game for the Locked On Islanders podcast as we have our first little meetup in section 118. And if you're at the game and you want to say hi, come on by. I'll be there, and so will a lot of our regular participants in our premieres, which are Monday through Friday at midnight. So if you want to say hello to some fellow Islander fans and to me, please do stop by. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. Again, we are a day early, but Friday will be the 64th birthday of former Islanders defenseman Tomas Jansson, the Swedish native, 5'10", 175 pounds, drafted by the Islanders in the second round in 1979, joined the Islanders after playing professionally in his native Sweden for the 81-82 season, and he became a really strong offensive defenseman, sort of the second offensive defenseman behind Dennis Potvin, and you also had Mike McEwen, depending on the season. Ended up winning the last two Stanley Cups with the Islanders and stayed with the team through the 88-89 season, spent half of that year with Edmonton, and then returned to Sweden, where he remained active through the 97-98 season. Jansson, 552 career NHL games, 85 goals, 344 points, 482 penalty minutes, add 11 goals, 37 points in 80 postseason games. One of his best games as an Islander, how about November 6th, 1984, a home game at the Old Barn. Islanders playing the St. Louis Blues. Rick Wamsley gets the starting goal for St. Louis. Billy Smith for the Islanders. And in this game, our Islanders birthday of the day, Tomas Jansson, he scored the last goal of the game in the third period. Mike Bossy and Brent Sutter had the assist, but he also set up a lot of goals. In the second period, Clark Gillies and Tomas Jansson set up Dwayne Sutter for a goal. And, oh, yeah, he and Brent Sutter set up John Tonelli earlier in that second period. The Islanders go on to beat the Blues by a final score of 6-3. For Tomas Jansson, he had 3 assists to go along with the goal. He was a +4. He had 4 shots on goal and just played one of his better all-around games. Final score, Islanders 6 and the St. Louis Blues 3. Rick Wamsley pulled from the game. Mike Liute finished up for the Blues. Dwayne Sutter scored twice for the Islanders, but Jansson led the way with 4 points. Brent Sutter had a goal and 3 points in this game. 29 saves for Billy Smith. So it's a day early, but happy 64th birthday to former Islanders defenseman Tomas Jansson. He is our Islanders birthday of the day. I want to thank everyone for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Everydayers, tomorrow on the show, I promise we will get to the mailbag. I know I kind of put it off. I kind of had to based on all the fallout from the game against the Rangers. So we'll get to some mailbag questions tomorrow. We'll also preview Saturday's game against the Rangers, and we'll have our key takeaways from tonight's game against Montreal. The premiere for the Friday episode of the show may air a little bit late depending on how quickly I can get back from UBS Arena to record it. So please bear with me. But we will definitely get that episode up and, hopefully close to, if not completely on time. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. Can't wait to go to the game tonight and see everybody. And of course, let's go Islanders.